The story opens beneath the golden African sun, its warmth spilling across the glass walls of a towering modern building. The hum of traffic and distant chatter create a familiar rhythm of city life. Amid this brightness walks Amma, graceful, confident, and untouchable. Her tailored cream suit reflects the light as though it were made for success itself. Yet beneath her calm eyes lies a past that could melt even the strongest heart. Years ago, this same woman was a maid scrubbing floors in this very building. She knew these halls better than anyone, every corner, every stain, every secret whispered by those who thought she didn't exist. Back then, Amma's dreams were small but sincere. She wanted stability, love, and the chance to be seen beyond her uniform. Among those who once noticed her was David, a young executive full of charm and empty promises. He'd tell her she had potential, that one day he'd help her be more than just a maid. His words felt like sunlight then, warm and comforting. But light can burn when it fades too soon. When David's company began to crumble under financial pressure, he shifted blame wherever he could. May, once his comfort, became his scapegoat. He dismissed her without warning, leaving her with a broken heart and an unpaid salary. That night, Amma walked home under the rain, her uniform clinging to her skin, her tears lost in the storm. But as she sat alone in her small apartment, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror, something inside her hardened. "Never again," she whispered. "Never again will I let anyone define my worth." From that moment, the maid began her transformation. She worked double shifts, took evening classes, and saved every coin. The journey was brutal, full of rejections, sleepless nights, and doubts. Yet Amma kept going. Her pain became her fuel, her memory of betrayal, her compass. 5 years later, the sun rose again on the same city, but the woman walking its streets was no longer the same. Amandalovu, the once invisible maid, now stepped out of a sleek black car in front of the same glass building she used to clean. Cameras clicked. Reporters called her name. And the signboard behind her read, Endlovu Technologies in partnership talks with DC Holdings. The irony. DC Holdings was David's struggling company. Fate, it seemed, was ready for its grand rewrite. Inside the conference room, David sat nervously, trying to adjust his tie. The company he once led with arrogance now hung by a thread. The door opened and the air seemed to shift. Amma entered, composed, confident, radiating quiet power. For a moment, David's words vanished. He blinked twice, disbelief clouding his face. "Amma, you're the new partner," he stammered. Amma smiled softly, her tone steady as glass. "I prefer CEO Nilvu. But yes, I am." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut through. Memories flashed across David's mind. The way she used to smile, the way she once looked at him with hope. Now, that same woman stood taller, her eyes filled with grace instead of pain. The tables had turned completely. "Ama," he started again, his voice cracking. The past, it was complicated. She met his gaze firmly. "No, David, it was simple. You left when it was hard. I stayed when it was impossible." The meeting proceeded, but David barely heard a word. Amma's presentation was flawless. Every slide, every number, every vision she spoke carried confidence carved from years of struggle. As she concluded, her team applauded. David only sat in silence, his regret heavy as stone. When the session ended, Ama gathered her files calmly. "Thank you for your time, gentlemen," she said. "We'll review and finalize the terms tomorrow." She turned to leave, but David stood abruptly. "Ama, please, I need to talk to you. Just 1 minute." Outside the boardroom, she faced him. "You had your minute 5 years ago," she said quietly. "Now, my time belongs to people who believed in me when you didn't." Her words hit him like thunder. She walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor, each step echoing the sound of empowerment. David watched her disappear down the corridor, realizing the woman he abandoned had become everything he pretended to be. Hours later, Amma stood by the large glass window of her office, the city stretching beneath her. The reflection of her success stared back, but behind it, faint traces of old pain lingered. Her assistant entered, smiling. CEO Nalovu, investors are impressed. The deal looks solid. Emma nodded gently. Good, but remember, this is bigger than me. It's for every woman who was told she wasn't enough. Her words carried weight, and even her assistant felt the inspiration settle like a flame, as soft music filled the background. The narrator's voice deepened. Emma's rise wasn't built on revenge. It was built on resilience. She didn't climb to prove David wrong. She rose to prove that broken wings still remember how to fly. For a brief moment, Emma closed her eyes, remembering the girl who once cleaned those floors, and whispered, "You made it." Then came the mid-story pause, a moment for reflection and connection. The narrator's tone grew vibrant, yet personal. If you're still watching this, take a second to like this video and subscribe, because the next part of AMA's story will leave you speechless. What happens next will remind you that karma never forgets the address it left from. As evening settled, Emma walked out of the office building, her figure bathed in the orange hue of sunset. She pulled out her phone to check her messages. Amid the notifications was one name she never expected to see again, David. The message read, "Please, Amma, I need your help." She stared at it for a long moment, her heart beating between triumph and compassion. The city lights flickered around her as the narrator's final words of the episode whispered like wind through the frame. Life has a strange way of circling back. The man who once walked away was now reaching out. And the woman who was once powerless now held the pen that could rewrite both their fates. Amma slipped her phone back into her bag, lifted her chin, and walked toward her car. The camera lingered on her face, strength, grace, and a trace of uncertainty. As the door closed and the engine started, soft strings rose in the background. The shot widened to reveal the glowing skyline, her city, her story, her comeback. And just before the screen faded to black, the narrator left viewers with a promise. The maid became a millionaire. But in the next chapter, she discovered that even success can test the heart that built it. The city lights shimmered against the dark sky, painting a portrait of power and promise. Among those glowing towers walked AMA, dressed in a sleek black gown that moved like confidence itself. The same woman who once walked away in tears now walked with grace that turned heads and silenced whispers. Her eyes no longer carried pain, only peace, purpose, and quiet fire. Months had passed since she lost everything, and while the world thought she had vanished, she was rebuilding herself in silence, brick by brick, until she became unshakable. Tonight, Emma wasn't attending another gala. She was hosting one. Her name shone across banners that read, Amatech Africa, building smart solutions for a better future. Inside the hall, powerful men and women from across the continent gathered to celebrate her success. Cameras flashed, people clapped, and the same society that once pitied her now admired her. Every smile she gave hid the memory of the night she was humiliated and cast aside. But this time, she wasn't here for revenge. She was here for redemption. From across the room, Kofi watched her. His once confident face now wore the lines of regret. Years ago, he mocked her ambition and fired her in front of everyone. Now, his own company was struggling, and the woman he discarded had become the heartbeat of Africa's newest tech empire. As she moved through the crowd, people whispered her name, not with pity, but with respect. Kofi could feel his pride crumble with every step she took. He approached her. A nervous smile painted across his face. "Amma," he said softly, "you look different. Successful, I see." Amma smiled gently, her voice calm and unshaken. "Different. No, Kofi, just free." He tried to laugh, pretending the past didn't exist. "Listen, I was young, ambitious, I made mistakes." "Maybe we could." She stopped him with a glance sharp enough to slice through the noise of the room. "You didn't make a mistake, Kofi. You made a choice. And choices have consequences." For a moment, the world around them went silent. He stood frozen as she turned and walked away, her heels echoing through the marble floor. There was no anger in her step, only strength. He looked down, realizing that sometimes the loudest punishment is silence, and the heaviest weight is regret. Amma's journey hadn't been easy. The flashbacks of her struggle painted the screen, long nights filled with sleepless work, countless rejections, and moments where hope felt like a stranger. But she never gave up. She created Amatech, a company that used solar innovation to power rural schools and give jobs to young Africans. Her pain became her purpose. She wasn't just rising, she was lifting others with her. Her mother's proud voice echoed in her mind. "My daughter, you've done what even men twice your age couldn't." Amma smiled. "Because I learned Mama's success isn't revenge, it's peace." Days later, a boardroom full of executives sat in stunned silence as Amma walked in wearing a tailored black suit. Her presence commanded the room. Papers lay on the table, documents finalizing the acquisition of Kofi's company. He entered in disbelief. "Wait, you're buying my company?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Correction," AMA replied, signing the paper with a steady hand. "I'm saving it. Your employees deserve better leadership." The room applauded. Kofi lowered his eyes, unable to meet hers. The woman he once dismissed now controlled everything he built. But Ama didn't smile out of pride, only compassion. She had learned that true power isn't about destroying someone. It's about rebuilding without bitterness. Karma didn't need to be loud. It could arrive quietly, dressed in success and peace. That night, Ama stood on her balcony overlooking the city she helped transform. The wind brushed softly against her face, carrying the scent of freedom. Below, the lights of Amatech glowed like stars, a symbol of what resilience could create. She thought about every person who laughed at her pain, every door that closed, every moment she doubted herself. And then she whispered to the night, "Thank you," because without that pain, she would never have found her strength. Her phone buzzed. A voice from a charity foundation said, "Ms. Ama, your donation just helped another 100 girls start school today." Ama smiled, her eyes glistening. "That's the only return I ever wanted," she said softly. She had turned heartbreak into legacy. The girl who was once underestimated had become the woman who inspired thousands. She didn't just win, she healed. And her victory wasn't in wealth or fame, but in peace. In the end, Kofi lost everything he thought mattered. And Ama gained everything that truly did. Between their stories stood a simple truth, that life has a way of turning humiliation into honor, and every ending into a new beginning. The camera slowly zoomed out, capturing the golden sunrise over the city. Text faded in. "Never laugh at someone's fall." Life has a way of turning pain into purpose. And as the music softened, the narrator whispered the closing words that echoed in every listener's heart. She forgave, but she never forgot. 'Cause sometimes the best revenge is rebuilding beautifully. Moral: don't fight to prove your worth to those who broke you. Build so powerfully that they see it themselves. Would you forgive the one who destroyed your dreams if life later made you stronger? Comment below. Your answer might inspire someone tonight.